Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. I can't keep my mouth shut anymore. For some of you, that's really going to bother you. There are going to be a lot of trolls and a lot of people that aren't trolls but have a different opinion and totally disagree with me when it comes to this. I love the fact that there is a current argument and that the government is going to shut down. Actually, it is shut down as of the time that I'm making this video. You know something? Let me tell you why before you jump to any conclusions and pass judgment on me. Let's talk about it.
Why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Okay, I spent my entire career in healthcare, and I have some insight into this. I have practical experience into it. And you're saying, well, what's that got to do with the federal shutdown? Well, the federal, the governmental shutdown has about 5 parts that are key that they're fighting for. And one of those parts is over Obamacare, over the Affordable Care Act, over its extension, over its expansion, over how it's applied. And in turn, there are also a couple of sub-caveats to that for specific issues within states. So the first thing you need to recognize is first you have Obamacare, all right? Don't even get me started. I'm going to explain. Second off, you've got specific self-administered states. There are states, Arizona, California, New York, if I'm not mistaken. There are quite a few states where they supply information to the federal government. Federal government takes that census information, the statistics of that information, and says, this is how much money we're going to give you to care for your indigent care, your Medicaid care. They have no true, if you're in California, you don't get Medicaid, you get Medi-Cal. If you're in Arizona, you don't get Medicaid, you get Access, all right? So, and Access is the name, it's Arizona Health Cost Containment System, all right? Many states are like that. So, that is one of the key sticking points, and there are some big arguments. Well, I will tell you this right now. Why is it like this? What is going on? When Obamacare came out, contrary to what many people never really understood, and still don't to this day, is that the federal government said, hey, you know what? You're going to make insurance plans more affordable for everybody, and you're going to give them options. And if you lose money during the first 2 years, we're going to subsidize you, Mr. Healthcare, all right? And we'll take one, for instance, say Cigna or Humana, all right? If you lose money, we're going to refund that. We're going to guarantee you don't lose money. We're going to give you federal funds. And that had a 2-year moratorium. And you know something? After 2 years, many of you, my age, all right, that went through all of this, you saw what happened to the rates, all right? Not only did you see what happened to the rates, you saw what happened to the number of companies available to issue policies. In many states, there's only 1 or 2 companies now that can administer Obamacare policies and then ACA policies. And in addition to that, in some places, like in Nye County, California, Nevada, if I'm not mistaken, in Orange County, California, in Maricopa County, Arizona, there's only 1 company, all right? It was designed on purpose to fail, and to benefit somebody else. Now, what am I saying by that? All right. You know why the Democrats want this to continue? Because it's money in their political pocketbook. That is just the bottom line. They don't give a shit. All right. The vast majority, the guys that pull, you think that Adam Schiff sits around at home and gives Nancy a call and says, hey, how am I going to help take care of these people? Give me a break. You know that's not going to happen. All right? You know that's not what's going on. And don't get me wrong. I think Trump's made plenty of problems. I think Trump, I'm not neither Republican nor Democrat. I'm not taking sides here. What I am doing is telling you the truth, the absolute truth. So here's what happens. All right? When I say there's money going into their pockets, it is in political contributions to the PACs and re-elections and subsidizing or financially supporting Democratic opponents to run for office. That's a huge issue. And you think, you're thinking, Mike, come on, it's not that big a deal. It isn't that much. No, Well, guess what? Let me tell you something. Let's take a look at this. Fortune 500. Now, this is from Becker's Healthcare. This was just released this past June. All right? Just a couple months ago. Becker's Healthcare, highly reputable, very reputable healthcare information company. All right? So, Fortune 500's top 25 healthcare companies. The 71st Fortune 500 ranks America's largest companies by their 2024 fiscal year revenue. Key healthcare takeaways from the most recent listing from Fortune released on June the 2nd. The list includes 12 companies, 12 out of the 500, specializing in medical facilities within its broader healthcare sector, led once again by HCA, Health Corporation of America Healthcare, which holds steadily at number 61. But hang on, all right? The list includes 7 insurance and managed care companies. So you notice it's actually segregating providers, all right? Because HCA Healthcare is a hospital system. All right. How about the insurance companies? Well, the list includes 7 health insurance and managed care companies, with one leading the pack. United Healthcare Group climbed to number 3 on the Fortune 500, overtaking Apple by with more than $400 billion in annual revenue. Don't think for a minute medicine is not big business. And you know something? There is so much of corrupt system within medicine. It is ridiculous. Okay? Despite economic uncertainty, Fortune declared this year's list among the most stable. All right? Only 22 companies out of the Fortune 500 dropped out. The second lowest turnover in 30 years. Horrible economy, isn't it? But the goddamn healthcare sector, it's doing great, isn't it? It's doing great. Walmart's still number 1 straight for 13 years. Okay. There's some movement in healthcare with Eli Lilly climbing 27 spots, Tenet following 11, CVS following United Healthcare's lead by climbing position number 5, followed by Berkshire Hathaway. Good old Warren, huh? You gotta love Warren. All right. For reference, Walmart holds the number 1 spot in the Fortune 500 overall, with revenue of approximately $681 billion. Okay, let's just skip that. It doesn't matter. So here are the top 25 ranked healthcare companies with their revenue and percent change to annual revenue. All right. Number 3 on the Fortune 500 list is United Healthcare. Number 2 on the Fortune 500 list, CVS Healthcare. So you've got all of these not legal immigrants and the corruption. And I'm going to tell you right now, I dealt with this. I know this firsthand, how corrupt this system is, how manipulated it is within being a clinical practitioner. All right? I've seen it. I've seen what happens. All right? So don't do that. McKesson, number 9 on the Fortune 500 company. A company true to my heart. I've paid them literally millions over the years. Okay? Cencora, number 10. So of the, 4 already, are in the top 10 of the Fortune 500. Cigna, number 13. Cardinal Health. Now, Cigna is an insurance company, and they do have outpatient facilities too. All right? Cardinal Health is a hybrid type situation, more of a hospital base, but they do other stuff. Number 15. Elevance, number 20 on the Fortune 500. My magic cup. All right? So, out of the top 20 Fortune 500 companies, 7 of them are healthcare. Centene, number 23. Humana, number 39. Johnson & Johnson, 48. HCA Healthcare, number 61. Merck, number 65. Pfizer, AbbVie, Bristol Myers, Eli Lilly, Abbott Laboratories, Molina, Amgen, Gilead, Danaher. Now, here's another good one. On that Fortune 500, all right, number 195 is Stryker. They don't do managed care, all right? They don't do hospitals or patient treatment. What Stryker does is 2 things. They manufacture medical products, all right? Mostly what you see, medical products. And they have a healthcare team that literally teaches hospitals how to economize and maximize profits from using their products versus somebody else's. All right. Tenet Healthcare, another hospital corporation, number 206. Becton Dickinson. All right. Becton Dickinson, if I'm not mistaken, Becton Dickinson is a healthcare construction company. I've got to look that up, but best of my memory, Becton Dickinson does a lot of architectural planning, building, etc. All right. GE Healthcare Technologies. Guess what? That's medical equipment. In the Fortune 500, that doesn't count the rest. All right. That's just the healthcare technology division is is number 219. Again, a company I paid millions to for MRI units, CAT scan units, ultrasound units, X-ray units, radiation therapy units. All right. These are not unusual things whatsoever. Now, there's a lot of argument to be made in many different directions, but I'm going to tell you right now, something has to be done. I'm glad it's at a standstill. I feel bad for people that it's going to financially impact. All right. I feel bad, but there's so much waste out there. Now, let me tell you, remember I told you that McKesson was dear to my heart? We fought this. We fought all of this corruption in the past. And I fought corruption in my clinics by utilizing a very advanced, high-end HIS system, health information system. And one of the reasons we did it was because where the majority of my clinics are located, or were located when I owned them, the majority of those clinics were in areas that were of high migrant populations. And so what would happen is especially like, say, Arizona, Juan Flores would get Medicaid access, and he'd show up in my clinic, all right, and he'd have an order from his doctor, and he'd have his access ID card, And normally we would just say, here's the doctor's order. Here he is. All right. And here's his access card. Well, we're not allowed to actually ask for positive ID. That's against the law. All right. And I'm going to get to one other information piece here before I let you guys troll the living crap out of this. So back before all of this started, all right, this is going back 20 years. We actually had webcams, all right, shitty little webcams on every patient check-in kiosk, and it took a picture of him. And if he showed up at any of our other clinics under that access number, that would come up in his file. And my staff would say, Mike, we've got a problem here. Or one of my managers, all right, that would be on duty. I wasn't at the clinic 90% of the time. Mike, this guy isn't this guy. All right. So we would do that. But the government's never imposed it to keep it going. Now, some of the states may have changed things. And I talked to somebody who's very close to the subject right now. And they are using, and GE has their own HIS system, and so do some other companies, all right, that are very big. And they're actually incorporating biometrics and have incorporated biometrics into these systems. Now, in our day, my day, we didn't have that beauty. You had your eyeball, you had the picture, you hope you caught them. All right. So that was the issue number one. Issue number two with hospitals. Why are these hospital systems so high up the Fortune 500 list? Well, let me give you an example where hospitals have an advantage over every business out there. I don't know of any other business that allows for it. Okay. Now, those of you, I have others very smart. We have very smart subscribers. We have very, very intelligent subscribers that are varied across the board and have a ton of experience in other businesses. So, your input, maybe I'm wrong. There are certainly, it wouldn't be the first time. There are perhaps examples you guys could list in the comments, but here's the advantage. So hospitals generally, even though they could be publicly traded, they're categorized, most of them categorize themselves as not-for-profit. All right, these county hospitals. Now, there are a lot of for-profit hospitals out there too, but most of these companies tend to try and make their hospitals fit into the not-for-profit. So here's how it works. A hospital buys aspirin for a penny a tablet. Their rate, if you go to their website, and most hospitals now are required to actually list what they charge for certain things, all right, might be $3. Okay? So I go to the hospital. They give me an aspirin and this super inflated price. I have insurance, all right? I have Blue Cross Blue Shield. My Blue Cross Blue Shield contract with that hospital system says, hey, we're going to pay you XYZ for aspirin. Okay, so let's say they're going to pay the hospital $1. Okay, that's fine. What happens to the other $2? Guess what? They get to write it off as a loss. They get to write off, oh, excuse me, I said that wrong. I am so sorry. So they're going to pay $1. But what happens if you go to that hospital, you get charged $3 for that aspirin, okay? And you don't have the money to pay it. You don't have the money. They get to write that off as a loss. They don't get to write off the 1 cent that they paid for it. They get to write off the $3 charge. I apologize earlier. I'm going to leave it in there just so you see, how complicated some of this can be. You understand what I'm going at here. The hospitals are big, big business. And how do they do this and not for profit? Because the money, they make sure they spend that money. I'm going to tell you, I've sat on the board of 3 different hospitals. I was on the board of 3 different hospitals in my lifetime. What would happen? Halfway through the year, there'd be a projection of where the hospital was going with revenue and how much it must spend by the end of the year on expansion, on research, on salaries. I mean, it's not going to say how much you're going to spend on each of those things, but it's up to the hospital. Up to the hospital to say, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to therefore write off our gains. We're going to make sure that we are not for profit. And then in the end of the year, and I've seen this at all 3 of these hospitals. One of these hospitals I sat on the board of for 4 years. And I wasn't well liked, to be honest. Pretty much like YouTube. I'm not well liked here either, I don't think. You know, at the end of the year, what would happen? They'd do bonuses. Oh, the hospital performed great. We're going to have $4 million left over. Let's split $2 million between the CFO, CEO, COO, and 4 or 5 other OOs. All right, CIO, CTO. All right. And then let's take the other $2 million and let's filter it down to the department heads as end of year bonuses. This is not unusual. Seen it, been there, done there. I got the shirt to tell, I own the shirt. Look, this budget crisis has multiple parts, but one of the key sticking parts is the continued issue of Obamacare and continue to inflate these things. One of the other issues here is, Trump is saying, hey, you can't be counting people to get Medicaid dollars into your state because you're then, using federal funds to provide health care to non-legal immigrants. Now, this is the most important part. In fact, if you're going to comment in a negative way, at the end of your comment, please place the word universal health care. Because if you don't place it and it's a negative comment, I'll just probably ignore you. Here's the deal. I'm a big proponent of universal health care. All right? I really and truly am. I believe in universal health care. I believe we need universal health care. I believe it is shameful for us to have the number of facilities, the resources that we have. No other country in the world has the ability to put as many people in the hospital in critical care at any given time as the United States. Nobody even comes close. All right? Now, you can argue about quality of care. You can argue about infant mortality rate. You can argue about all kinds of things. And there are just sidetracks to all of it. How it's tracked, what it is, the whole 9 yards. Whether we do a great job in the United States with it is a whole different argument. The point is we have the fucking infrastructure to do it. We do. It exists right now. It's far superior to anybody else in the world. Are there hospitals in the world that are better than any hospital we have? It's quite possible. But there aren't that many of them. There aren't that many Scripps. There aren't that many Cedars-Sinai. There aren't that many Mayos. There aren't that many Northwesterns. There aren't. Period. End of story. The list goes on. All right. If I didn't name one of the greater ones, that Cleveland Clinic, Rush Memorial, Baptist in Miami. All right. These are hospitals that do cutting edge, incredible medicine, not to be surpassed anywhere. Maybe they're not going to be serving caviar up there in your room, but what can I say? But my point here is I am a big proponent. We have everything we need. We need to find a way to do it without making the average person pay out the ass. And that's what's happening. What my daughter pays for healthcare is insane. Insane for a 23-year-old healthy, no pre-existing, all right, extremely healthy young lady. And it's insane. It really is. All of that being said, I'm happy. I want to see something come of it. Now, the conclusion. Nothing's going to come of it. These damn greedy politicians, the corrupt politicians, the politicians that don't do anything for you other than promote what they think you need, are going to win. Whether it's going to be the Republicans or the Democrats, that's a whole different story right now. But it's not going to do shit. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm tired of keeping it quiet. Now, in my membership channel, this type of a video is going to be common. You guys that are members, and it be in the members only section, this is the kind of stuff we're going to be covering. I already have 3 that I'm in the midst of making, and we'll be starting to publish those. I think tomorrow they'll be complete. Either way, look, your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, I think that those would all be great to have. Please do subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the notify bell. Have a great, safe day.